Of course, when you find out you have a very serious illness, you're first very shocked, and it can be very overwhelming because you're not sure whether you're going to live, whether you're going to die, whether you're going to be able to survive. My biggest concern and my most anxiety was caused by the fact that I wasn't going to be alive to help my children growing up, and that I was really upset about that more than anything. I'm not afraid to die because they discovered that I had some kind of sickness. At first, they thought I had idiopathic myelofibrosis, which is a hardening of the bone marrow so that the cells cannot be released. And they did a bone marrow biopsy, and that was the diagnosis. But then, a couple of weeks later, I started having major back pain in my lower back. And this is where the bones back here of your pelvis are generally where your blood cells are made. And that was where I was having pain. The pain got worse and worse to the point where I had to be on morphine and really heavy doses of painkillers. And they finally diagnosed leukemia. Acute myelogenous leukemia is the name of the disease. And at the time, we had no alternatives. Conventional medicine offers only one treatment for acute leukemia, and that is chemotherapy. I think that there are better ways. There are better ways to treat people than conventional medicine. And I think that that there is a combination of things that causes cancer. It's diet, it's stress, it's our lifestyle in the United States, and it's poisons in our environment, poisons in our food, and poisons in the air. And the poison is generally what causes cancer. The body can only manage a certain amount of poison, and once that liver becomes overwhelmed, then illness sets in. The way that the whole hospital scene does not make me happy. I hate going there. It's a very clinical environment. The food is terrible. Not very nutritious. The things that I normally eat are real food, non-frozen food. And that's Gerson, Max Gerson's, Gerson therapy that he came up with was based on his study of people who were sick. And actually he started with himself. He started, because he had migraine headaches when he was a medical student, and so he thought, well, I might, be able to fix this, because he went to every doctor he could and none of them had a cure for the migraines. So he thought, well, maybe if I modify my diet, because he had read a couple books about diet and headaches, and he thought maybe that he could fix that. And he had read about a woman who had cured her migraines using a diet. So he decided to try this apple-only diet where he ate apples, boiled, cooked applesauce, raw apples. And he went on this diet for a week or so, and he realized his migraines slowed down. But when he went back to his normal diet, the migraines came back, and he realized that he could try this food diet to make his migraines go away. So he began adding foods to this diet, potatoes and other vegetables, and he eventually came up with a diet that he could eat where he wouldn't have the migraines. And eventually people heard about this, and other doctors would send him people for him to explain the diet to them, and then they would try the diet. But the way he started using it for cancer was a lady in Germany heard that he had used this successfully with tuberculosis patients. She came to him and she said, "Hey, I would like to try your diet." And she went ahead and tried it, and she was cured. At that time, they really, before World War II, they didn't have chemotherapy. After World War II, when he had come to the United States, they had developed chemotherapy because they realized that mustard gas in World War II veterans had killed off their blood cells and their bone marrow, and they realized that they could use this mustard gas to develop chemotherapy the chemotherapeutic drugs. And so the chemotherapeutic drugs are based on the chemistry of mustard gas, and they use these drugs to kill off bone marrow and other rapidly dividing cells. So after World War II, chemotherapy became quite the norm, but what Max Gerson did is his therapy was not approved in the United States as a conventional cure. But when terminally ill patients became sick, they would send him the terminally ill patients that they had already tried to treat and that they had had no success with conventional medicine, and he was allowed to work with them. So he mostly worked with very terminally ill patients that had stage 3 or 4 cancers that were considered incurable by modern medicine, and he was able to, in a lot of cases, cure them or help them to live much longer. And so when I went for my next chemo, because of my diet, I had absolutely no side effects from the chemo. I had no nausea, no feeling badly about it at all. It didn't make me tired. Other than being in the hospital, which is depressing, and having the horrible food, that I really had no effects from the chemo.
Hi,
Hello.
Rebecca. Yeah.
Hi.
So I only have preliminary results right now. It doesn't look like you have leukemia.
Okay.
Leukemic cells left, but again,
Where did you another? I know. I just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that that test came out sort of negative before.
If there was positive, I would have given you a call yesterday.
Oh, okay. I didn't know whether you were going to give me a call either way.
No. So
Okay, so I'll go up
plan
to
is
a
still
meeting then.
Yeah. So again, more definite results are still pending. So
Right.
it still is a possibility that there might be some
Residual cells.
cells left.
Okay.
But it didn't seem like that it is coming back at this time, looking at preliminary results.
Okay.
Modern medicine has a place to heal people, but for cancer, I don't believe that modern medicine has the answers, unfortunately. And the only reason I'm continuing with the conventional treatment is because with my particular form of cancer, the Gerson therapy is a little less effective than it is on other kinds of cancers. Gerson therapy is really useful for melanomas and for cancers like lymphomas and things like that, and sarcomas. But for blood disorders, it has been a little less effective, so that's why I'm reticent to try it without continuing the conventional therapy. But so it is a worry. It's you wonder if it's going to work, or if you're going to get sick, or if you're going to be able to cope with dealing with all the doctors and them telling you what to do. And a lot of times I disagree with what they say, so it can be difficult, because you're like, I don't agree with that at all. Like my doctor will say, you have to eat dairy and meat, she'll tell me. And she said, you can't get a full nutrition unless you eat dairy and meat. And the problem with that is that that's a typical thing. The doctors are not trained for nutrition. During their whole medical training in conventional medicine, doctors do not know anything about nutrition or study it at all. Maybe one class during the whole course of their medical, licensing and learning is about nutrition. And so they don't know. And so for them to tell you about nutrition is just not, it's not appropriate, I don't think. I think that cancer patients mostly need a place they can heal, and they're not going to get it in the hospital. They can get it at home with caregivers. They can get it in a spa kind of atmosphere place. They can get it in nature, but most regular hospitals in the United States do not lend themselves to healing atmosphere, unfortunately for us. So my own personal opinion is, if we could send cancer patients to the beach in Tahiti, they'd probably be a lot better off than keeping them in the hospital in the United States, or if we could send them to a place where they could just get fresh air, really good organic food, have a relaxed atmosphere. Meditation is really important, I think. Just a change from the rush and the everyday crazy stress of our lives is what we need more than anything. I think industrial society is what causes this. It's just, it's not a, cancer is a disease of an industrialized society that doesn't put nutrition and lifestyle choices that are healthy ahead of everything else. And that's the unfortunate thing for our society.